G'day folks. Well, I've had a viewer request to do this video, and this is a very good question. And basically it is, how do you generate, produce, invent algorithms, both for the Rubik's Cube and for other cubes? And the reason I think it's such a good question is because if you know anything about me and my videos, you'll know it's not about applying mindless algorithms. Just how do you solve this cube? Just follow these simple 57 steps and you'll be fine. It defeats the purpose of it, and to me it's really not puzzling, if I can put it that way. We want to be able to turn a puzzle into an actual puzzle instead of into a recipe, into a cookbook. So I'm going to demonstrate using all of these puzzles here at one time or another. Have no idea how long this video will be, but hopefully by the end of it you'll have a good idea of how I generate algorithms, how I think about things, and also how you can. Now I must say this video is not geared towards the experienced and wonderful solvers, and many of you out there are much more wonderful than I am at solving stuff. I'm okay, I'm not brilliant, but this is really geared to those who are wondering, how do people come up with this stuff? Is it magic? And let's face it, to most people in the world, solving Rubik's Cubes is magic. Forget about Felix doing it in under 6 seconds. Solving it at all is magic, and it seems like magic. So we want to basically be able to go, how do we do this and how do we come up with stuff? So the first thing I'm going to think about is this concept that what we want to do to move pieces around, or actually not the first thing, the thing before that is that if we could move different piece types one at a time, we could solve the cube. For example, on this Rubik's Cube, we notice that centers, even though they rotate, they don't actually move anywhere. You might say, well, yeah, they do, but in actual fact they're not moving anywhere relative to the other centers. So even if I move all of those 4 centers, it's still the same here and here. We might also then note that edges do move. Edges can move there, so that is definitely different to this edge here. So what we're thinking about is, how can we move around specific piece types one at a time? Sometimes we're going to be moving piece types and it will affect other piece types, and sometimes it won't. And sometimes we need it to be a specific type of piece where no other piece is moved. The key concept that I've found and that I discovered after I learned how to solve the cube was that what we want to aim for is to get one face or one slice where only one piece has changed in some way. And I'm going to demonstrate that firstly by looking at some corner movement, and then I'm going to step back and look at some edge movement. So as an example of the most basic thing that I know how to do, it's an edge piece series, and it's just a normal 1-1 commutator, and we go down, down, up, up, and that's done. Now with that, let's have a look what's actually happened on the puzzle. We can see that only pieces in that line have actually been affected. That's the first thing. No other pieces on the cube have been affected. We see that this face has a lot of pieces affected, this face has a lot of pieces affected, this face here only has one affected. Now what that means is that now that I've found a face or a slice which has only one piece affected, I can turn another of those pieces into its position, maybe like that. And then I can undo what I just did. So I went down, down, up, up with the left one first. So I went down, down, up, up. So to undo those moves, I'm going to bring the right face down first. Down, up, up, and then I'm going to undo this face's move that I did. Now let's step back and have a look what's happened. Only 3 pieces have changed position. In this case, all the other pieces are the same. And what we find is that whenever we have a face or a slice with only one piece changed, when we carry out that routine, it will create a 3 cycle of pieces, as it's done here. Now if I was going to undo this just to have a look at something else, I've got to think backwards now. So I did say that it could be a face or a slice. So let's think about this. What if I do the same thing? I notice once again that instead of this face having only one piece, it's now this slice Everything else on that slice is the same. What happens if I just move that in the same way that I moved this one? I move that over to there and then undo. Having done that, I'll move back my face. Let's take a look. 1, 2, 3. We've now got a 3 cycle, a pure 3 cycle of edges. And I should point out that you don't have to just move it one turn. So as an example, if I wanted to rotate different corners, then I would go down, down, up, up. And instead of this corner, I wanted to involve this one over here. Well, I'd turn that one into position. Undo. Turn it back around, and this time I've got those 2 corners and that one. It's still a 3 cycle, but it's 3 different corners. Okay, so that's really the first concept, and I've been using down, down, up, up, but it doesn't have to be down, down, up, up. The one that I first learned to use it on was what I now call the corner piece series, and that's when we turn the up face and the right face away, and then the up face anti-clockwise. And this time it's on this face again, but you'll notice it's at the back. And the reason that I like the corner piece so much is because it is pretty symmetrical. So you remember that I turn the upper face, then the right face away, then the upper face back, and now I'm going to turn the left face away. And now I'm going to undo all that. The other beauty of this is that all 3 pieces are on that top face. So that's another example of a 1-1 commutator, just having one piece changed on a face. But it's not just about movement. What if you wanted to twist something? Well, this time is where it gets more interesting. We can also do the same thing. We notice that, yeah, that piece has changed, but if we carry it out again, we now notice that there is only one piece on this face that has changed, but it's the piece that was there. It's now been rotated. Now remember, I said if one thing on a face has changed, or a slice, then that's what we want. So we say, great, I've got that now. Why don't I turn that around like that, undo these moves, and there were 2 of them to do this time. That's done. Now turn that back, and you'll see this time, instead of having a 3 cycle, we've actually managed to twist 2 of these pieces. So that's another example of in fact, the front one has been twisted anti-clockwise, the back one has been twisted clockwise. So if I wanted to undo them, I'd just turn the cube around and carry that out again. So that's that. Now let's step back and have a think about the first thing we did. I said that as long as we change something on one face, you might be thinking, where did he come up with this down, down, up, up? Well, it's just an example of what I call the edge piece series, which is commonly known as just an edge 3 cycle. Now let's have a think. If the first turn that I did was that, now concentrate on this face. How many edges have changed on that face? That's exactly right, 1. So that was my first turn, and now I say, well, I've changed one edge on that face, so I'm going to turn that out the way, put another one in there, then I'm going to undo that turn, and then I'm going to undo that turn. And that is the simplest kind of 3 cycle of pieces, and all I care about are these edges. Those 3 edges are the only 3 edges that have moved. Yep, it's taken some corners with us as well. The interesting thing would now be, and that you can start to see why, if you were trying to solve a cube and you knew this, you'd be going, well, if I can just move the edges around first, I know it's going to disrupt corners, but once I've done the edges, then I could do something similar and move around corners, because they don't disrupt the edges. And that's what I meant about specific piece types. Now I did one of these things. You've already seen what happens when I do 2 of them. I get a twisted corner on one face that I can then use. What if I do 3 of them? Well, all the edges are back. Of course they are, because this was a 3 cycle of edges that I did, so if I do that 3 times, I put them back. What we'll notice now is that that blue, yellow, red corner, the green, white, red corner, they have swapped positions, so we've got a swap of corners across there, and these 2 have also swapped. So that's another handy thing. So how do I invent, produce, generate algorithms? Lots of times it's trial and error, it's experimenting, it's actually playing with the puzzle, it's attempting stuff. It's being prepared to stuff it up. So in fact, because I switched that, I don't need to undo them. I can just carry all that out again 3 times, and it will put the cube back to a solved state. So that's the first kind of look at how we think about stuff. What's another puzzle we can look at? Well, I guess another thing might be like this. This is a 3x3x6, and we've got the cube here, and we think, well, this time when we go, maybe we'll try the same thing. Maybe we'll go, look, I'd like to do a corner thing, so I'll move, what did we do before? We went, for the corner piece series, we went up, right face away, up face the other way, and we noticed that was on its own. Let's try the same thing. Up, right face away. Now what? Okay, so we can't actually turn like that. So instead of doing that, we might say, well, let's go up face, and this time turn it like that. And then move the upper way, and we notice on this face, yep, one piece has changed. So we say, well, why not move that out the way with the only other piece that can actually go there and be turned, and then undo those moves. Lo and behold, we've got 1, 2, 3 corners. We've created a 3 cycle because we had one face where a piece was the only thing that had changed on that face. Okay, well that's interesting. Let's undo that. And that, by the way, is what I call the corner piece series for cuboids. But remember, it was about a slice as well. So what else could I do? Once again, notice this piece is the only piece on that slice that has changed. So if I just move the slice and then undo things, what's happened now? 1, 2, 3. That could be very useful. That means you can now, you've got a way to solve this kind of piece, you've got a way to solve this kind of piece. What else do we need? We need ways to solve these sort of pieces here, if this is what we're doing. Let's undo all that, see if we can figure out something for them. And normally, I guess in the past what I've done a lot is I haven't scrambled the cubes up or the puzzles up. I've played with them and I've tried to figure out things before I scramble them up. These days I'm throwing a little more caution to the wind. Occasionally I'm regretting it, but most of the time I'm getting enough, I guess I've got enough smarts to be able to go, okay, that's what I need to do, and I work my way out of it. We've done this one, we've done this one, that's all those pieces. What about a piece like, I don't know, this piece here, maybe, or this pieces on that there? Well, we noticed that when we did the corners, we were turning the upper face. What happens if we just turn that face instead of the upper face? And then we'll go that around and bring it back. Can we find any face where only one thing has changed? Yes, we can. It's the same thing here. And in fact, you can see exactly what I'm getting at. If we, what did I, let me, there we go, just like to undo that, because what I'd like to show is that it doesn't just have to be one piece at a time. You could theoretically do this. Turn all 4 of those and turn them back. And you say, well, on this face, it's those pieces that have changed. So if I now put them out of the way and put other pieces into the place, what will happen when I undo all this stuff and complete the algorithm is that I'll now have effectively 1, 2, 3 bits that have actually changed. So that's another way to think about it. You could theoretically go ahead and find every piece on this, you could just generate a different algorithm for and solve it in that manner. So that's kind of a cuboid, and that's where cuboids can be looked at. Now, what's next? Let's have a look at perhaps, well, what about this helicopter dodecahedron here? Helicopter dodecahedron, and this is a slightly different one because it's an edge turning thing, so they turn like that. This one also jumbles, but I'm not interested in jumbling at the moment. I'm just more interested in thinking about how we would go about generating things, because this doesn't have faces to turn like the last one. So the first thing now, if I was playing with it, what would I do? And looking for stuff, I would turn that and see what's happened. Well, unfortunately, if I'm now calling my edges, they're what my faces used to be because they're the things that change, I can see that if I turn that, this edge has two things changed. So I think, oh, well, that's kind of a little bit like an edge piece series, so I might as well do that and then undo those moves. Let's see what actually happens. Well, you can see the edges there are back, but the centers and the corner, they've been changed. But what we also notice is that over here, that edge only seems to have one piece that has been changed. And so according to the laws of how these things work mathematically, I should just be able to turn that now and undo the turns I did. You remember I did this one, then this one, then this one, then this one. So I'll undo it by going that one, that one, that one, that one, and finally put this one back. What have I discovered? Yep, I've created a 3 cycle. I've only moved 3 of these pieces around. That now means that you've got something to move corners at will. That's an example of how you might go about finding stuff on the helicopter dodecahedron. What's next? What about this face turning octahedron? This is a great puzzle. What would happen if I decided it's quite a different thing, and in a lot of ways it's the same sort of thing. If I start with a face, I would experiment and go, well, you remember that corner piece series? Remember on this cube over here I went up, right, up, left, that sort of thing? Well, what if I do the same thing here? Start on a face, go up, right away, up, left away, up, right return, up, and left return. And I'm hoping for some magic, and what happens? Nothing. So in that case I go, oh, okay, that didn't work, undo that. Mercifully that came back to solved. And I think now I've got to try something different. Okay, what about if I went down, hold it like this, and we'll go down, down, up, up. And I'll inspect and I'll see, has anything exciting happened? Well, not incredibly exciting, but kind of, because down here, that corner and that centerpiece are the only things that have changed on that face. And so I say to myself, well, theoretically, if I turn that along and I then undo what I've done and then return that face, what that means is that I should have a 3 cycle of corners, which I do, and a 3 cycle of centers, which it doesn't appear that I do, but I actually do. I've got the white and the blue, and there'll be another one of them that's involved. And to find out what that is, I can simply repeat the 3 cycle. Which way did I turn it? That way. And return. Oops, wrong way. There's my 3 corners again. There's that white piece. Notice it was that one that was blue before. Now it's this one. So now that tells me it's those 3 pieces there that are involved in that center 3 cycle. So once again, if you were to use that for your centers and then enable yourself to find a way to just cycle these corners, the only other thing you'd have to do would be the edges, and you'd basically be able to solve the face turning octahedron. Let's put that to one side. What about a megaminx? Well, that's kind of different, because megaminxes they don't really, I mean, if I did this, up, right away, up, left away, hang on a minute, this is looking good, undo that, and once again I've got a 3 cycle. Why do I have a 3 cycle of corners? I'm trying to stress here, it's not magic, it's because if I undo this, we'll have a look at it. It's because when I did the up and then this right away and then the up return, this face only had 1 corner that was changed, which means if I wanted to involve this one, I'll just turn that one into place, and then I start undoing the moves, and now I've got this, this, and that. They are the 3 corners. So you can, if you wanted to, you could basically create algorithms at any point on the cube or the puzzle you're on, depending on where your corners are. Now that's all very well, and in fact let's undo that and maybe have one more look at something. Which way was it? That way? I think it was. Okay, what about if I just went down, down, up, up? You can see that face has one corner, so again you don't even need to do the other up, you can just turn that out the way. But if I did do the up, I've also got this face, and I've got this face. So if I do that sort of edge 3 cycle, I've really created 1, 2, 3 faces where I could do another turn. I'll decide I'll do this face down here, put that out the way, and now down, down, up, up, bring it back, and it's these 3 corners here. So really nothing can stop you in solving puzzles. In fact, if we go and have a look at the Gigaminx, once you know this principle of how things work, basically how to move pieces around, I said nothing can stop you. I didn't say it may not take an awful long time to figure them out. What about this? If we look at the Gigaminx and we went, let's try the same thing, down, down, up, up. Of course it's the same thing, so I could move that one around, for instance, and undo. Turn it back, and what have I got? 1, 2, you can see 3 giant corners there, but what's more interesting is that I've got the other pieces than just this corner. And to say how that might be useful, let's put this back. Okay, so they're all back now. What would happen if instead of that I just turned that in a slice each time? Now you can see that I have the same kind of deal. I have 1, 2, 3. It's even better this time because I've got a whole bunch of faces where I could just turn something on that face and it would exchange pieces. So what if I wanted to do exchange this one with that one there? Which one did I say? I better turn it again because I think I said that one. So I've done that, and now what do? Well, undo the moves. Undo those turns. I went the long way again. What on earth? Oh, I've created a 2 cycle. No, I haven't. Clearly that one's involved because that's the one that I put into that position. So now you've got a way of pure cycling any 3 pieces that you so desire, depending on where they are. In fact, it really wouldn't even matter if they were down here somewhere. You just turn them up into that position first, and then you could do what you like. So we've actually got, it looks to me like we've got that red, that pink has gone from here to here, so that red's gone back there, that red has gone to there. So that's an example on the Gigaminx. Nearly at the end, in case you're wondering, what about this one here? This is the Venus pentahedron. These things came out a while back. They weren't overly popular. And what I mean by that is nowhere near as many people as I thought actually bought them and started playing with them, but they're great puzzles. Some are more challenging than others. Some are very, very challenging indeed. So this is the Venus, and this has the yellow and purple faces have no circles on them. The white face has a circle. The orange face and the blue face do not. So this is another one because we can't do that and then have other turns. We have to do 180-degree turns here. So what would happen, I'll experiment and think I need something here. So I'm going to turn that down, down, up, up. My standard, normal, bog ordinary thing. Well, nothing really useful then. Let's try it again. And again. And you think to yourself, what's happened? Why has it gone back? Well, because all of those things were 3 cycled. So then you think, well, can I find a piece or a face where only one thing has changed. Well, I'll look around and I say, no, I can't, really. So I'll abandon that for a minute. This is probably how I did it when I was solving these things. I'll say, what if instead of turning those two faces, I turned that one and this one? I don't know, like... what now? Have I got anything helpful? No, I still don't seem to have anything helpful. So I was going to say healthful. Twisty puzzling is very healthy for you. So I'm going to do that again. Which on earth one did I do first? I can't even remember which one. I'm just going to undo this. No, it wasn't that one. So maybe it was that. Okay, just undone that because I've forgotten. So it was actually front face, up, front, up prime. Let's remember that. Let's try it again. Anything now? Nah, it's still looking silly. Front, up prime. What about now? Well, that looks a little bit better, and you can kind of see the edges have gone back into position, but I've still got a bunch of corners here. What if I just keep going? That's 4 of them. How many am I going to have to do? Oh, hello! All the corners are back, and now I've magically created a 3-cycle of these reduced edges. That is very, very good. Very cool to know, and it of course means that if you solve this cube by reducing it, you now know that you can just do 5 of those very simple routines and cycle 3 of these edges. And what I would be then thinking, and I'm not going to do it on camera because I can't remember if this actually worked, but you've got one circle face, so the idea might be then, how can I just cycle those bits? So just to show you how it's not always as plain sailing as you'd want it to be, I'm going to undo that. You might think, well, that is fantastic. What about we try it on one of these faces where the circle, the centre parts don't turn? Okay. Two, 3, 4. Yeah, bummer. What you can actually see is that the same edges are involved as before, but we've also got a bunch of annoying little bits there that are also involved. And again, you know, it'd be nice if there was one of these faces that had just one piece affected on it, and none of the outer corners are affected only, and on every face it looks like we've got 2 of them. This is the face that I can't use because it's already been involved. So I'm looking for that face perhaps. So yeah, you're close sometimes but not quite there. So that's another example. Creating, inventing, and I remember this puzzle here, it's all scrambled now so I can't show you anything from Solve, but I remember a couple of years ago when this came out, I actually came up with a way to solve it using the exact same algorithm, solve the whole thing, and it's just to do with depending on what layers you turned. So if you turned that layer, it would perhaps solve these bits. If you turned that layer, it might solve those bits or those bits. I really can't remember the details, but I was pretty stoked back then, and it was quite a new thing to me of how to generate those things. So I really, really hope that's been helpful, particularly to those of you who are still thinking that maybe this is all magic. I'm very happy I've just managed to put that back. Generating algorithms, you can also use Gelatin Brain. It's a simulator on the web. There's actually a few of them that you can use, but I think that's the best known one. Sometimes, if all else fails, I will go onto Gelatin Brain if the puzzle is on there, but it's not always on there. And I should point out the geranium, I don't have it here, but that's what I think is the hardest puzzle at the moment, hardest twisty puzzle. That took absolute ages to get it, and a lot of experimenting, a lot of trial and error. So anyway, I really hope that's helped. Hope you can use it and generate your own algorithms. If you like this video, click like. Thanks for watching.